Pallavi ma'am. Okay, so in my previous video we discussed regarding the solution chapter, where in part 3 we discussed regarding the solubility and Henry's law. So when it comes to solubility, just revise for a minute regarding those topics, then we will move to the next part of the chapter. Okay, so where we discussed regarding like a solubility means what? Okay, solubility of a solid in liquid and the solubility of a gas in liquid we discussed. Okay, so what are all the factors that will going to affect the solubility on both like a solid in liquid and the gas in liquid we discussed. Okay, so where like a temperature and where the pressure will play a role, where the nature of a solute and the nature of a solvent will definitely play a role in the solubility part. Okay, I hope we have discussed all these things, and we did a simple experiment based on to know some of the terms like crystallization, saturation and unsaturated solution, even the term dissolution. I hope you have gone through that one, you have understood. So let us move to the next part of the chapter, that is even I have started the Henry's law as well. Okay, what exactly that scientist Henry's told, the solubility of a gas in liquid. Okay, the solubility of a gas in liquid is directly proportional to the pressure. As the pressure increases, obviously the solubility of a gas in a liquid goes on increasing. Okay, so they represent it by a partial pressure. Okay, what do you mean by the partial pressure? Everything we have discussed, just check the previous video, you will get to know. So according to the Henry's law, what was the mathematical expression? Like partial pressure of a gas, okay, on the liquid is directly proportional to its a mole fraction, we could say. Okay, so what do you mean by mole fraction? The number of moles of the solute present in a given total number of components, we could say. Okay, so partial pressure is directly proportional to X, we told, where P is equal to, by removing the proportionality, we could write KH over here into X. Okay, where KH is nothing but what? The Henry's constant. Okay, so where we discussed up to this much, where the next part is about the Henry's constant and the applications of a Henry's law. We're all going to apply the Henry's law. So we're going to discuss that one by one. So let us concentrate on the Henry's constant. It is because based on this, you are going to get a question in your CET or it might be a NEET. Okay, so this is very important. So let us concentrate more on this one, then we will move to the application part. Okay, so we could see here what exactly this Henry's constant will tell. See, at a given temperature, okay, so when I say gases, it doesn't mean that all the gases will be having the same Henry's constant. Okay, different gases and the solubility of a gases in a given liquid will be different. For example, as I told, HCl and the ammonia will readily react, will readily soluble in a given liquid, whereas oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen may not be. Okay, so this KH value defines, this Henry's constant value defines how much the solubility of a gas is there in the liquid. Okay, so can I write here KH is equal to, or P by X, I am taking this mole fraction here, P by X is equal to KH. Can I write like this? P by X is equal to KH. Okay, now just observe here. This is fine. The partial pressure is directly proportional to KH, that I agree. Now, just observe, when I say this Henry's constant and the mole fraction, they are inversely proportional to each other. Okay, they are inversely proportional to each other. Means what? Mole fraction is nothing but it will going to tell how much amount of a gas is present in a given liquid. Agree? Okay. KH is inversely proportional to the X, means more the gas or more the mole fraction or more the amount of a gas that is present in the liquid, lesser will be the KH value. Agree? I hope you understood. So what I could say, since they are inversely proportional, mole fraction means how much amount of the gas that is already present in a dissolved condition in a given liquid, or what is the solubility of a gas in a given liquid. More the mole fraction, more will be the solubility. Agree? But here, more the mole fraction of a solute or a gas, lesser will be the KH value. Okay. Similarly, if gas is less soluble in a given liquid, more will be the KH value. Inversely proportional. Okay. Means the KH value is not same for all the gases, and this KH value defines whether the given gas is highly soluble in a given liquid or less soluble in a given liquid. Okay. So KH value will definitely tell the solubility of a gas in a liquid, where each gas will be having its own KH value. So based on this one, we will definitely going to get a question. So do remember, KH and the mole fraction are inversely proportional to each other. More the value of, I am going to write it, you can take it down, where more the KH value, if the KH value is more, mole fraction is less, or I could write the solubility is less. S means solubility. More the KH value, lesser will be the solubility. Similarly, if the KH value is less, okay, the solubility is also like more. Inversely proportional. Very easy to remember. If the two gas comparison, if I explain, then definitely you are going to understand what I am trying to tell. Okay. So this is what the Henry's constant and how it is related to the solubility. Let us take one or two example of a gases with the Henry's constant value. Okay. Then we can finally we can understand what exactly this Henry's constant. So here I have written some of the gases with their Henry's constant value, where remember the unit for the Henry's constant is kilobar. Okay. So now just observe, the first one is like helium with a KH value 144.97. Okay. Next comes hydrogen 69.16. Nitrogen 76.48, oxygen with a 34.86, and the carbon dioxide with 1.67. So what exactly this table tells is that, see, helium, let us compare two gases over here. Take helium, okay. Let us take one more gas, for example, oxygen. Okay. When I compare the KH value of a helium and the oxygen, which is having the less KH value, it is the oxygen having the less KH value. How much? 34.86. So helium is having the more KH value, like 144.97. So as I told, if the KH value is high, okay, solubility is what? Less. Means helium is very less soluble in a given liquid than the oxygen. Okay, helium will not undergo a soluble or will not dissolve in a given liquid very easily. Okay, so helium having the highest like a KH value, where oxygen, when I compare, it has the less KH value. Okay, compared to the helium, oxygen will readily dissolve in a given liquid, will readily soluble in a given liquid because of its less KH value. Now also, as I told, oxygen is not completely soluble in a water, but here I am comparing with another gas. Okay, helium, oxygen, when I compare, okay, helium is less soluble in a given liquid, whereas oxygen is more soluble. Quite simple. Okay, similarly, if I take oxygen in the carbon dioxide, I could say oxygen is more soluble. Oxygen is less soluble than carbon dioxide. Why? When I compare these two, oxygen is having the more KH value. How the? Means more the KH value, lesser will be the solubility. So more the KH value, lesser will be the solubility. So that oxygen is less soluble in a given liquid, whereas carbon dioxide having the less KH value, solubility will be more. So this is how you can compare and you can tell how the solubility and the KH value are related. So if the question might appear by comparing the two gases like this, you should be able to tell. Okay. So simple way to remember that, more the KH value, lesser will be the solubility, lesser the KH value, more will be the solubility. Okay. So here, one more point I need to concentrate, that is the graphical representation of a Henry's law. How we can draw a graphical representation for the Henry's law. So what exactly Henry's law was? P is directly proportional to mole fraction, right? So if I try to draw a graph like, mole fraction, okay, and the partial pressure, as I told, both are directly proportional. Partial pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction, or mole fraction is directly proportional to the partial pressure. So what is the graph nature? It will be a straight line, okay, it will be a straight line. Okay, so this is what the graphical. So partial pressure means, again you are going to represent either by a dot or bar. Okay, so x, since it's a mole fraction, don't have any unit. So what is the graphical nature of Henry's law? It is a straight line. Okay, this one more point you need to concentrate, and the value of KH for the some gases, the solubility you need to concentrate. Okay, important for the competitive exam as well as for the theory exam. So the next point that we need to concentrate is the applications. What are all the applications of a Henry's law, where exactly the concept of pressure and the mole fraction and their directly proportionality, where we will going to apply, okay, and even the Henry's constant. Okay, so let us discuss about that. And one more point I need to say here is KH. Whether this KH value depends on the temperature? Exactly. Why? Because see, when I consider oxygen, in the previous video I told you regarding the solubility, the aquatic animals finds very comfort level in the cold climate than in a summer. Okay, why? Because as the temperature increases, the solubility decreases. Agree? Okay, as the temperature increases, the dissolved gas will start escaping. Okay, as the solubility decreases, KH value happens what? Even the KH value also increases. Okay, so KH value varies with the varying in the temperature. Okay, it values very well in the low temperature. Okay, this is very important. So KH value is good if you measure at a low temperature. So these are all the points you need to concentrate. Next comes to the, so the next application of a Henry's law is the scuba diving. Okay, so you might have gone to the scuba diving, or you might have observed that one, where the person who is going is given with a cylinder, the oxygen cylinder we could say. Okay, where exactly what happens, the cylinder is filled with the helium, okay, and nitrogen followed by oxygen. Okay, along with the air, it is not a pure air that they have filled. Along with this one, the helium is also filled over there. Why? Because I am going to tell it. It is around the helium concentration, or how much it is present. It is around 11 point something. Okay, 11%. Where the nitrogen is around 56.2. Okay, 62.2, and it is around 32% will be filled. Okay, why? It's because see, compared to the oxygen, nitrogen is more soluble. Okay, compared to the oxygen, nitrogen is more soluble. Remember that. Okay, so this is a mixture, pure air along with helium is mixed in that cylinder. Why? Because when the scuba divers go deep below the sea, as we go down, the pressure increases. Okay, as the pressure increases, we know that solubility also increases. Okay, as the pressure increases, the solubility also increases. Okay, more amount of oxygen is obviously required. It is soluble. At the same time, nitrogen is more soluble. Okay, so where the helium is less soluble. So what happens when they come up suddenly to the surface? Okay, then what happens? There is a sudden decrease in the pressure. So as we know, as the pressure increases, the solubility decreases. Okay, the nitrogen gas, which is already dissolved in a blood, okay, which is already present in a soluble condition in a blood, will start coming out. Okay, will start bubbling out in the capillaries of a blood. Okay, so we try to block the capillaries. Okay, which will make the divers to very difficult to breathe, I could say, and the condition is developed called a bends. Okay, the bubbles will be formed in the capillaries. It is because as the pressure decreases when they come to the surface, the dissolved nitrogen, as the pressure decreases, will start escaping out. Okay, once it starts escaping out, okay, the bubbles will be formed, and the condition, that medical condition, is called as a Bent's over here. For that reason, the helium is mixed with this pure air, okay, where the helium is less soluble in a given mixture, or in a given liquid, or in a given blood, I could say. Okay, so this is where I could apply the Henry's law. Okay, the third one is skydiving. Okay, skydiving means, see, as the person will dive to the higher sky, to the higher altitude, so as we go up, the pressure decreases. Okay, we have an atmospheric pressure over here, and we have an oxygen gas as well over here. So to this atmospheric pressure, we have an oxygen gas which is dissolved condition in our blood. Okay, as we go up, what happens? As we go to the high altitude, the atmospheric pressure decreases. As the pressure decreases, what happens? The solubility of a gas in our blood also decreases. Okay, the solubility of the oxygen in our blood also decreases. So what happens? The person who is present at the high altitude may feel like difficult to breathe, I could say. Okay, and will become numb over there. Okay, will become flat over there. It is because of the condition called anexia. Okay, it's because of the medical condition anexia. It is because the less oxygen gas is present in the blood. It is because at higher pressure, the solubility of a gas is very less. Okay, so these are the three applications of what? The Henry's law. Okay, please do concentrate, students, because based on this part, you will going to get a compulsory questions even in your theory part as well as in your competitive exam. I hope you have understood. So let us move to another part of the chapter, that is vapor pressure. Okay, so let us discuss regarding that one. Yes, my dear students, so this is about the vapor pressure. Okay, we will discuss regarding the vapor pressure. Not directly I am going to define. So let us have one simple example. Okay, so here the best example. Okay, I have a two container, the glass beaker, you could say. Okay, so in both the container I have taken a water as a solvent. Okay, here also I have filled with the water, here also filled with the water. The only change I have done here, in the second glass jar, okay, I have covered with a lid. I have closed with a watch glass, lid or watch glass, whatever you can consider. Okay, so here what happens? Quite simple. Both the glass jar are maintained at a definite temperature. Okay, both are kept at a normal at the same temperature, where I am not changing the temperature. Let us consider the room temperature itself. Okay, so only change is that water I have taken. Okay, so both are maintained at the constant temperature. Okay, think I have not closed with the lid, but here I have closed with the lid. So what happens here? Under normal temperature itself, the water, okay, will start evaporating. Okay, will start evaporating. Okay, the water in a liquid state will change its phase into a gaseous state in both the condition, in both the beakers. Okay, so here what happens? These water droplets, when it turns into a vapor, will escape to the atmosphere very easily. Okay, so will turn into a vapor, will move to the atmosphere very easily. Now come to the second beaker. Here what is happening? The same phenomena is happening. Under the given temperature, the water is evaporating. Okay, but what is happening here? Since I have closed the jar with the lid, okay, these water droplets which are already evaporated, when they reach the surface of the lid, since there is a hurdle or obstacle is there, they are going to hit the surface of the lid. Okay, when there is no way to go outside of the container, what happens? With what pressure they are hitting on the surface of a lid, with the same pressure they will come back and hit the surface of a liquid. I hope you understood. Okay, So repeating, these water droplets when evaporates, these vapors, what happens, will try to escape to the atmosphere. But where I have put a stopper over here, I have closed with a lid. So when there is no space to go, they are going to hit the surface of this lid. Okay, so since there is no way, they'll again come back and hit with the same force or with the same pressure with what a force they have turned into. They have hit it into a surface of a lid. Okay, so they'll come back. Okay, so hit with the same pressure on the surface of a liquid. Okay, so here what happens? How many, like the amount of a liquid that is evaporating. Okay, the amount of a liquid that is evaporating, that much of amount of a vapors that is again condensing. Understood? Okay, when they are going to reach an equilibrium, okay, the pressure applied by the vapors, on the surface of a liquid which is in equilibrium with the liquid, we could say, is called vapor pressure. Okay, I hope you understood what do you mean by vapor pressure. Okay, repeating, the pressure applied by the vapors of vapors which are in equilibrium with the solution or the liquid that I have taken. Okay, this is what we are going to call a vapor pressure. Where we can't see any vapor pressure over here. Okay, the wall fluid is there. Okay, very less because we don't have any stopper or the pressure we are not applying. So this is like what do you mean by vapor pressure. I hope you have understood. Now, tell me, the same container that I have taken here, where I am going to heat the container. Okay, initially what I did, I maintained it at the normal temperature. Now I am going to forget about this. We need to concentrate on this. Okay, because we are discussing about the vapor pressure. So what I am going to do, I am going to heat it. Means I am going to give a temperature. When I start giving the temperature, the water molecule will start colliding with one another. Okay, when they gain energy, they start moving with each other, or the kinetic energy of the molecule increases, or the vibration or the motion increases. So as the number of water molecule will gain the energy, they readily turns into what? Water droplets. And means more the number of water droplets will be converted into a vapor. Okay, so more the vapor converted, okay, with a high force, how they are going to hit? With the same pressure, they are going to hit back on the surface of a liquid. So quite simple here. So what happens with the increase in temperature? The water molecule will start vibrating. Okay, as the vibration increases, more water molecule will turn into a vapor state. Okay, and more the molecules that are in a vapor state, more the water vapors will hit on the surface of a liquid, and again they will come back to the surface of the liquid with the same pressure. Okay, so that is one factor. What is the factor? That is temperature. So can I say with the increase in temperature, the vapor pressure increases, right? Okay, why it increases? More the water molecules turn into a vapor state. Okay, so more the vapors, more will be the vapor pressure, we could say. Okay, that is one point. Now there is another point. Let us consider here. Thing is, it is not a pure water that I have taken. Okay, let us imagine it is not a pure water that I have taken. Okay, so to this water, let us draw one more container. Okay, in this container, what I have taken? For example, salt solution. Okay, so I have taken a salt, that is sodium chloride, plus water. I have taken a salt water over here. Okay, the salt water. Next, again this closed with the lid. Okay, so the container is closed with the lid over here. Now, see, we know that water will going to evaporate. Will the salt will going to evaporate here? I know it's a salt solution, but when we consider a pure water, okay, when we consider a pure water, we have only the water molecule in
is happening along with the water molecule, on the surface of a liquid or the solution, you have a salt particles also, right, where the salt is not evaporating or volatile in nature. Okay, so here what happens, since it is a solution, okay, since the salt particles are present, very less number of water molecule that turn into a vapor. Very less number of water molecule that turn into a vapor. Okay, because these salt particles will not allow the water to evaporate. I could say in a common word, they are not going to give a space for the water molecules to evaporate or to go into another state. So lesser the number of water molecules that are coming out as a vapor state, so less molecules will going to hit on the surface of a lid. Okay, with the same pressure, less molecule will come and hit on the surface of a liquid, which is in equilibrium. So I could say here what happens, the vapor pressure decreases. Agree? So temperature is the one factor which is going to affect the vapor pressure. Similarly, I could say the impurities. Okay, the impurities will definitely going to affect the vapor pressure. Okay, here the salt is taken as an impurity, or the solute particles are considered as an impurity, will going to affect the vapor pressure. Okay, the two factors. The next one is the nature of a liquid. The nature of a liquid, that is the water here I have taken. So instead of water, if I take some of the organic solvents, okay, if I take some of the organic solvents, for example, I could give acetone, I could give chloroform. Then what happens? They are volatile in nature. What do you mean by volatility? The best example is camphor. Okay, so camphor we are going to call it as a karpura, right? Okay, so this is highly volatile. We will going to say, means if I keep the camphor for a day, okay, when you check to the next day, the size might have decreased. You might have observed that one. Usually the camphor will be kept in a closed box. Okay, it is because the camphor will evaporate when it comes in contact with the atmosphere. Such type of a substance will going to call it as a volatile substance. Okay, you might have observed the nail polish remover. Okay, so when you keep it open to the air, it evaporates immediately. Okay, so those are all nothing but what? The volatile. Okay, so quite simple. Instead of water, if I take, let us consider chloroform, which is also a solvent, okay, or let us consider CCl4, or let us take benzene, or which are all the organic solvents you can take. Okay, so as I told, the organic solvents are volatile in nature. So volatility means what? They turn into a gaseous state immediately. So more the volatility of a given liquid, more the molecules will be in the vapor state. Agree? Okay, more the molecules in the vapor state, more will be the vapor pressure. Agree? Okay, yes, quite simple. So on what factor the vapor pressure depends? The factors on which are, so I could write over here. Okay, so the first one is temperature. Okay, the first one is temperature, on which the vapor pressure depends. Okay, and the second one is the presence of impurities. The presence of impurities. Okay, I hope you have understood. Okay, and the third one is nature of liquid. Okay, nature of liquid or the solvent which we have selected. Okay, so let us just brief this one. With the increase in temperature, I could say the vapor pressure increases. Okay, presence of impurities. The impurities of the solute particles will going to affect the vapor pressure, will going to decrease the vapor pressure. Okay, so nature of a liquid, more the volatility of a liquid, more the volatile nature of a liquid, more will be the vapor pressure. Okay, so these three factors you have to consider. I hope you have understood what is vapor pressure. Defining again, okay, vapor pressure is nothing but the maximum pressure that is exerted where? On the surface of a liquid. Agree? On the surface of a liquid which is in equilibrium with each other. The pressure exerted by the vapors, okay, on the surface of a liquid which is in equilibrium with each other is nothing but what? The vapor pressure. I hope you have have understood the vapor pressure and the factors over here. So let us move to the next concept, that is the Raoult's law. Okay, the Raoult's law is basically explained by considering the vapor pressure. So the next concept that I am discussing, Raoult's law. Okay, so here the vapor pressure, when I have explained, so we could discuss the vapor pressure on a two headings. How means liquid solution and solid liquid solution. What do you mean by this? Here liquid solution is this, in the beginning only we have discussed. When I say liquid solution, the solvent is liquid here. Okay, with the liquid we have the solute liquid. Okay, so that's why we're going to call liquid in liquid solution. Okay, so that is a one type of a solution. Next, solid in liquid solution means the liquid itself is a solvent. Okay, the solute that we have selected is a solid here. Okay, so we will going to discuss the vapor pressure under these two. What exactly the vapor pressure when we consider liquid in liquid solution and the solid in liquid solution. I hope you have understood these things. Okay, so then we are going to relate the Raoult's law. Okay, now liquid solution means here both the liquid are volatile in nature. Okay, both the liquid or the solvent that I have mixed, both the components are highly volatile in nature. Volatility means they readily evaporate. Okay, when it comes in contact with the atmosphere, that is called volatile substance or volatility. Okay, now see here. While explaining the vapor pressure, in a container I took only a single component, means I had either a water, a single component, or in another example I have taken an organic solvent, a single component. Here what I am doing, in this container which is closed with the lid, I have taken a two component like A plus B. I have taken a liquid A, at the same time I have taken a liquid B. Both the liquids are what? They are highly volatile in nature. Okay, so here what happens, if we have a both liquid, obviously they will start evaporating. Both the components, both are miscible, readily miscible with each other, where you can't separate out which is a component A, which is component B. Okay, so they are going to evaporate like this. Both the components are evaporating. Next what happens? They are going to hit the surface of the surface of the lid. Okay, and again with the same pressure they come back and we are going to hit on the surface of a liquid. Now how are we going to tell, okay, what is the fraction of A molecules that is exerting a pressure on the surface? Okay, what is the fraction of a B component that is exerting the pressure on the surface of a liquid? Okay, what is the vapor pressure of a A, what is the vapor pressure of a B? It is very difficult to find out because both the components are highly miscible with each other. Okay, so in order to come out of this problem, a scientist called F.M. Raoult, okay, the scientist called F.M. Raoult, he derived the relationship between the vapor pressure and the mole fraction of the solute. The mole fraction of the solute, here solute itself is a liquid. Okay, the mole fraction of a solute in where? In solution phase. Okay, so it is famous as a Raoult's law. Okay, we are going to call it as a Raoult's law. Students, I am still discussing about the liquid solution. Okay, so through which we will going to discuss the Raoult's law. Very important point. What exactly the Raoult's law states is that, okay, so when the binary compound, when the binary solution is mixed where both the components, let us take A and B components are there, okay, in a solution, both are volatile in nature. So obviously both will going to evaporate. When both will going to evaporate, both will going to exert a pressure on the surface of a solution. Okay, in that case, how are we going to calculate the vapor pressure of each component? For that, the Raoult's law states here, at a given temperature, for a volatile liquid solution, at a given temperature for the volatile liquid solution, the vapor pressure of each component
The vapor pressure of each component can be calculated or is directly proportional to the vapor pressure of a pure component before mixing and its mole fraction in a solution. Okay, so I can say simple mathematical expression. I have a component A, I have a component B. Okay, A is one liquid which is volatile, B is one liquid which is volatile before mixing. Okay, according to the Raoult's law, what it states, the pressure exerted by the A component, A component in a solution, okay, after mixing in a solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction. Okay, similarly, the pressure exerted by the B component is directly proportional to its mole fraction in a given solution. Okay, so by removing the proportionality, I could say, so PA is equal to P naught A, that is the product of a vapor pressure of a pure component A, naught represents the pure component, into XA. Okay, the pressure exerted by the component B is equal to the product of a vapor pressure or partial pressure of a B component in a pure state into its mole fraction. Okay, don't get confused with this, into its mole fraction. Okay, now I have a component, I have a B component. Both are exerting its own pressure. Okay, this is also exerting its own pressure. Now I want to calculate the total pressure. So according to Dalton's law of a partial pressure, what it states, okay, the total pressure can be calculated by the sum of the partial pressure exerted by each component. So can I write here P total. We have only two components since we have taken a binary. So P total can be taken by the sum of a pressure exerted by the A component and the B component. Okay, so now what is PA you have? PA here we have P naught A into XA. So can I write here P naught A into XA? Exactly. Okay, so where in place of a PB I have P naught B into XB. So I am going to write P naught B into XB. So P total can be calculated by this value. Okay, very important, this equation, okay, or this formula, where we're going to get a problems or the numericals based on this one. Okay, so P total is a sum of product of, okay, the pressure exerted by the pure component A into its mole fraction in a solution plus the pressure exerted by the pure component B into its mole fraction. Okay, so this is how. Now let us move, see here. So now we know that since it is a two components, where there is a standard rule that the total mole fraction of a component is always equal to value 1. Okay, so mole fraction of a A and mole fraction of a B equal to 1. Now can I take XA is equal to 1 minus XB? Okay, XA is equal to 1 minus XB. Similarly, I could take XB equal to 1 minus XA. Agree? Okay, now consider this equation. Okay, let us take P total is equal to P naught A, okay, XA, okay, plus P naught B into, in place of XB, can I substitute 1 minus XA? I can. Okay, so now P naught A into XA plus P naught B. I am multiplying here P naught B minus P naught B into XA. Okay, now consider this term and this term. In both, what is common? XA is common. So let us write this P naught B first. P naught B over here. Now take XA common. Okay, since I am taking XA common, I am writing plus XA over here. Okay, now can I write P naught A first minus P naught B? What I did, students, here, so I have written this P naught B first. In between the first and this term, I am taking XA as a common, so that P naught A I am writing here
minus, plus into minus, again we are going to get minus, okay, minus P naught B. Okay, if I know the value of XA, okay, I can calculate the remaining values very easily. This is how you can. So please do remember this formula. Similarly, what I can do here, what we did actually, PT is equal to like P naught A into XA we have, and P naught B into and XB, right? So what I did, in place of a XB, I substituted 1 minus XA. How? We know that XA plus XB equal to 1, okay? Similarly, what I do, PT is equal to, okay, in place of XA, I am going to substitute 1 minus XB. So can I take here P naught A, okay, in place of XA, I am going to substitute 1 minus XB plus P naught B into XB as it is. Okay, now PT is equal to, P total is equal to P naught A, okay, minus P naught A into XB plus P naught B into XB. Okay, now P total is equal to, now between these two terms XB can be taken as common, okay, so now P naught A keep as it is, okay, here I am taking plus XB as a common, okay, so then what happens, P naught B, writing first since we have a positive here, minus P naught A. Okay, so consider this equation 1 and equation 2. So in equation 1 what we have, the mole fraction of a A. In equation B what we have, the mole fraction of a B. So both these equations shows in this the total vapor pressure of a given solution is a linear mole fraction or a linear component of a mole fraction HCl. Okay, the total vapor pressure is a linear mole fraction, a component of HCl. Similarly here, the total vapor pressure is a linear component of a mole fraction XB. Means as the mole fraction changes, the P total will change, linearly related. Similarly here, okay, you have to remember all this. They are not going to ask you the derivation, but the formula are very much for the numericals, okay. So let us write by using this the graphical representation, okay, in my next. Yes, my dear students, I hope up to this much you have understood. So in my next video we are going to discuss a very important concept of a Raoult's law, its graphical representation, and the Raoult's law for the solid in liquid solution we are going to discuss.